So, in the most unsurprising piece of news of the entire year, The Last of Us multiplayer game has been cancelled, and the way that Naughty Dog decided to announce this was rather toothless, to say the least. They put out a tweet where they said they had an update on Last of Us Online, and they closed replies, and in that update to Last of Us Online, they confirmed that it's dead. So why you called this an update instead of a cancellation is a little strange, but the fact that you closed replies to a post written to your own community should highlight how little this studio actually cares about transparency nowadays. And I have mixed feelings on this. I was actually kind of interested. I wouldn't say excited, but I was certainly interested in this game. I've made it no secret that I think Naughty Dog's single-player game design is repetitive and outdated and just self-indulgent and obnoxious. But that being said, the multiplayer of the first Last of Us game was actually really fun, and the Uncharted games also had really good multiplayer. Naughty Dog isn't really a studio that you go to for multiplayer experiences, but for some reason, they're really good at making multiplayer experiences, for the most part. Because just like their game design, they don't have a whole lot of original ideas, but they are really good at refining other people's ideas. And you can take that as the backhanded compliment it sounds like. But I was actually interested in Last of Us Online, I guess is what they were calling it, because this game never really got an official title before it was shut down. And again, I have mixed feelings on this, because on one hand, it's definitely annoying when a company that is just so dedicated to re-releasing the same two games over and over and over again cancels their first actual original project in so many years. But at the same time, if it was a garbage piece of live service that nobody was passionate about and it wasn't going to be good, then yeah, sure, shut it down. If it wasn't going to serve any real purpose, why release it? I honestly get that. And I think that's been the general reaction of the internet. You have people who are like, damn, it's too bad that the first new Naughty Dog game in so many years has been canceled, but understandable if it was shit. But then you have the other people who are like, damn, this studio sure is awesome, and I can't wait to see what they do next, after they canceled something that was in the oven for at least 4 years and they never showed you. It's never good to see a game get canceled if it had good ideas, or if it comes from a studio that is obviously incredibly talented, even if it is comically mismanaged. It's never totally good news to see when someone's vision gets canceled like this. But at the same time, the amount of goodwill that people just blindly give to Naughty Dog still baffles me. The cancellation of Last of Us Online is more than just the cancellation of The Last of Us Online. It signifies a handful of things. First of all, it signifies that the studio is, again, almost comically mismanaged, because remember, this is a multiplayer experience that was going to launch with The Last of Us 2, but it had to be spun off because it was just so ambitious and so awesome. And the announcement of the spin-off was made more than 4 years ago, and then they canceled it without even showing you a single second of gameplay. That is, again, a comical level of mismanagement and a heartbreaking waste of talent. The cancellation also is representative of the fact that this was a live service game in development for longer than most single-player games are, and couldn't even get a trailer before being shit-canned. Again, tying back into the hilarious amount of mismanagement and devastating waste of talent going on at the studio. It also signifies that you now officially paid too much for Last of Us 2 for literally no reason. Because remember, Last of Us 1 came with the single player and the multiplayer, and then they cut the multiplayer from Last of Us 2 but still charged you the same amount of money, basically just based on the promise that the multiplayer was coming eventually. And it's just that didn't happen. Sure, gee willikers, wasn't that fun. And then there's also just the chuckles that I get from the fact that this would have at least kind of started to even the score between Last of Us games and Last of Us re-releases. It would have at least been some progress in evening out that ratio, but now Naughty Dog just has to sit with that ratio forever, I guess, because I'm starting to doubt we're going to get any new Last of Us game at this point. And of course, the Naughty Dog Defense Force came out swinging for this one, and we're going to make fun of those people because you guys are goofuses, and that's what people come to my channel for, is to make me look at the goofuses and point out how much of a goofus they're being. But I wanted to give my thoughts on this before we started, because it is just a weird, I don't know, I feel I'm very conflicted on this one, because it's like I said, and it's like many people have said, If the game was shit and nobody wanted to make it, then yeah, don't keep making it. But also, the amount of drama and the amount of headache and wasted talent that went into a fucking live service game, when really all the fans needed to be happy was just Last of Us 1's multiplayer built with Last of Us 2 assets. That's literally all you had to do to make people like baseline satisfied with the experience, and you couldn't even get that done in 4 years. And then when you make the announcement that you couldn't get it done in 4 years, you try to limit people's ability to interact with the news, and you weren't even upfront with what the news was in the post. Just this whole thing was absurd. And I'm going to keep coming back to the phrase comically mismanaged, because oh my god, Neil, what have you done to this studio? Good lord. But let's just get into some of the most vehement defenders of Naughty Dog that I saw after this news came out, because good lord, the amount of blind praise and blind goodwill you give to this company, I will never understand it. At YMness says, let me get this straight. PlayStation is doomed because a game you haven't seen a screen of, let alone a clip of it in action, got canceled. Do I have that right? No, PlayStation is not doomed because they canceled a game. PlayStation, and I guess more specifically Naughty Dog, is comically mismanaged because, again, 4+ years of development on a live service game was not enough. And this is Naughty Dog we're talking about. This is Sony we're talking about. This is one of the most well-funded and highly respected studios in the industry. 4+ years for a live service game built out of assets that were already finished, and again, the community would have been baseline satisfied with just a recreation of the multiplayer that was in a 2013 game. And you couldn't get it done. How you are missing the point of this is astonishing. This should worry you. The fact that the game isn't coming out, like, that shouldn't be a big emotional blow. Like, by all means, you can be disappointed, but this level of mismanagement should worry you. It shouldn't be an indication to give them more benefit of the doubt. And again, I don't get where this benefit of the doubt is coming from. We're talking about a studio that since 2017 has released 2 games, 2 new games, Uncharted Lost Legacy and Last of Us 2. And during all that time, could not finish an expansion of the multiplayer format and the multiplayer skeleton that they've had established since 2013. This should worry you. This should not be good news of, oh yay, Naughty Dog now has more resources to work on single player games. No, this should worry you. I can't say that enough. And it makes me laugh that in the last video, in this video that I made, there was that one PlayStation fanboy who was like, Xbox guys never hold Xbox accountable. But like, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself, but like the amount of not holding accountable on the PlayStation side, specifically in the Naughty Dog camp, is absurd. But let's just continue. Reforged Gaming, of course, says Naughty Dog has officially canceled Last of Us Online. The way it went on ice felt like cancellation was coming. If it helps them focus on what they do best, then I'm all for it. As they said previously, let them cook. But that's the problem. What are they cooking? Oh, it helps them focus on what they do best. What even is that now? Let them focus on what they do best. Great, Last of Us Part 1 Remastered Part 2. I can't wait for the next single-player Naughty Dog game, a remake of Last of Us 1 on the PlayStation 6, coming in 2032. Whenever I talk about this studio, I always come back to the idea that in order for a studio to get this amount of, like, goodwill from people, they usually have to prove that they know what they're doing. They have to prove that they've earned your respect, or they at least deserve to maintain your respect. Genuinely, what has Naughty Dog done to maintain your respect in the last 5-6 years? The last new game they released was Last of Us 2, which was incredibly divisive. And before that, the last new game that they released was Uncharted Lost Legacy, I guess? So the last time Naughty Dog released a game that was like pretty universally seen as good, like a good solid thumbs up across the board, not amazing, but a good thumbs up, was 2017. Again, what have they done recently to maintain this optimism? Let them cook, let them focus on what they do best. Do you even know what that is anymore? The Red Dragon says, so Naughty Dog cancels a game because they're afraid the quality won't live up to what PlayStation fans expect and want to focus on what fans love. Meanwhile, over at Xbox, shoved that shit out the door. Yeah, Xbox has greenlit some really shitty games over the year, and they failed, which means future Xbox games will have to get better. Compare that to Naughty Dog, and in a lot of ways, PlayStation in general, where just nothing comes out. And yet, the target audience has already signed off and given the thumbs up to what's coming in the future. One of these consumer to product maker relationships is a lot healthier than the other. I'm just gonna say that. There's a lot more shit on the wall on one side, but at least people can see the shit and choose not to put their money on the shit. Hashtag Wolverine PS5 says, you can tell Xbots have no gaming knowledge because they're celebrating like this is the first time a PlayStation project has been canceled and Xbox is about to make a comeback while Sony is on a downward trajectory. Keep dreaming, Xbox consoles ain't selling no matter what, because when you are staring down the barrel of rampant mismanagement, the first thing you should do is bring up the sales of Xbox consoles while your username is standing for a game that doesn't exist yet. Again, one of these consumer to product maker relationships, while uglier on the surface, is a lot fucking healthier than this. Wakanda Wan says, so wait, why are the people that said they didn't want more live service games talking shit about Naughty Dog not compromising and becoming a live service? What do you want? We want Naughty Dog to put out a fucking video game because they're a video game studio. Why are you so eager to redirect any kind of criticism? Discussing Film posted a report about The Last of Us multiplayer game being canceled, to which at Watching the Life of Donda replies, the title is misleading. It should say The Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer is canceled. Factions for Part 1 is still available to play on both the PS4 and PS5. Hopefully this helps for those confused. Which is extra funny because one of the only games that Naughty Dog has released recently was the remake of Last of Us Part 1, which was $70 and didn't have the multiplayer in question. Like, oh, guys, Factions for Part 1 is playable. It's just not in Part 1. Like, what? At Skinny White Bub says, quote, so we had two paths in front of us, become a solely live service game studio or continue to focus on single player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. They did everything right. A lot of people were pointing to this part of the cancellation announcement as like a silver lining, as like, oh, they didn't cancel it because it was mismanaged. They canceled it because it was just a vision thing, you know? It's not that the game was in complete shambles and the studio was running around on fire like that one SpongeBob meme. No, it's just they had a moment of realization that just, people like our single player games. We need to make more of those. Johnson, stop making that multiplayer game that I'm sure is in perfectly good condition. We need to do this for the fans. Like, bro, that is so not what happened. The game was in development hell for 4+ years. It was delayed indefinitely. It was put on ice. Bungie had to come in with a fucking chainsaw and start cutting limbs off to get things back on track, and that wasn't even enough. This line that they said like, oh, we have to focus on our single player now. We're doing it for the fans. It is such a cop-out and you're falling for it. If the mismanagement wasn't so rampant, the game would have come out. This was not a matter of Naughty Dog coming to their senses and being like, oh, we need to do this for the fans. No, it was Naughty Dog finally admitting defeat. And it's like I said earlier, if it was a shit product that nobody wanted, yeah, shut it down. But that's not the same as them being like, oh, we need to focus on the single play. That's why we're doing this. No. Stop doing the damage control for them. Again, with the blind faith this company gets. Here's another one, at Fresh Start 512. Hurts, but this was the right move. If it comes at the expense of doing what they love and providing riveting single-player experiences, then they had to move on. If that was really what this was about, why did it take 4 years to come to this conclusion? The Excellent Podcast says, I respect Naughty Dog for staying true to their single-player story games. Again, if that's actually what this was about, we wouldn't be in this situation. We wouldn't want them to fall under the Rockstar effect, which is completely milking their online content and prolonging what the fans truly want. Because Naughty Dog would never milk something. That's completely out of character for them to milk something. Naughty Dog would never. God, I don't get it. I don't understand the blind love that this company gets. I don't understand why so many people are so dedicated to being Naughty Dog's personal spin team. It's just weird. And with the amount of talent in this studio, I say it every time. This studio is almost unfathomably talented. The people doing the grunt work at Naughty Dog are insanely talented. Please give them something to do. This was such a waste of time. This is such a waste of talent. And god damn it, I just wish they would do something. Literally anything at this point. And if I had to give closing thoughts and quickly, it's just fucking stop blindly giving companies your respect when they do literally nothing to earn it. Hui, okay, toodles.